when the net of fish is brought to the shore, what happens? They start separating them, right? This reminds me of another parable, right? The what? The tares and the weeds, the wheat and the tares. Man sowed some seed on the ground, and he went to bed, and the enemy came and sowed weeds. And then when they both started to sprout, the attendant said, "Look, there's weeds. Should we go pluck the weeds out?" And what did the master say? No, wait until harvest. Now, does Jesus give an explanation of this parable? Yeah. Yes. He says what that is, the seed is the word of God. The wheat that grows up are the sons of God. The wheat are the sons of the devil, sons of the evil one. And they grow up together. The harvest is the end of time. And the harvesters are angels who will go in with a sickle and reap the harvest, bundle the weeds together and burn them, right? And the wheat goes into the barn. Yes? So the kingdom, should we be surprised that there's wicked men and evil in the church and scandal and all of that? No, we shouldn't be surprised. Jesus already foretold this was going to happen. This is how it's going to be until the end of time. Get used to it. Of course, we should just let it go on. Of course we should pray. But we shouldn't be surprised, and it shouldn't derail our faith, because God is in control of his church, and the gates of hell are not going to prevail against it. No matter how dark it gets, the church will always be here. You know why? Because Jesus isn't an Indian giver. He said he would be with his church to the end of time, and he will. It may be a faithful few, but they will be here. Amen?
Amen.
And so that's what we can expect. So this is nothing new. Now, I'm noticing my time. I went a little bit longer than I should. I'm going to try and do this within 10 minutes. Try. The challenge. I was going to ask for elicitations, but I'm going to jump right in for the sake of time. See if you got this. A friend of yours comes to you and says, the Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon mentioned in Revelation 17 and 18, and I can prove it. Okay. Revelation 17:4. Revelation 17:4 says, I saw a woman seated on a scarlet beast. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her fornications. You see that? Catholic cardinals are dressed in purple and scarlet. Yes. Aren't they?
Yes.
Purple and scarlet. The cardinals of the church are dressed in that, just like the whore of Babylon. Revelation 17:6 says that the whore is drunk with the blood of the saints. Look at verse 6. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Did you hear that? Well, everyone knows Roman Catholics have killed so many heretics and Bible-believing Christians down through the centuries. You see where this is going? You think I'm crazy? There are Christian churches that will, this is how they preach.
I've actually heard of John MacArthur.
Yes, I wouldn't be
I
surprised.
have tapes of him
Yes.
when I attended their Christmas service event at some point. It was supposed to be a very nice Christmas event. Christmas hymnal. They have a very good one, I must say.
Oh, yes.
He has tapes of this when he actually refers to the Catholic Church. The Grace Community.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. John MacArthur is probably the leading evangelical Protestant preacher of our time. He's an extraordinary Bible teacher and preacher. But yes, he believes that the Roman Catholic Church is a false religious system, a cult that people should come out of. And his church is filled with ex-Catholics. Filled. I was at one of his services, an evening service. It was supposed to be like a prayer and song service. And they had a baptism. And the person that was testifying to her baptism said, I used to teach CCD. And now I am here in a Bible-believing church. That's what she said. That was her testimony.
No, I simply went to enjoy the Christmas hymnal. They changed my mind.
Yeah. But I was like, this is one person among many. And Rebecca was there. And I don't think, Rod, were you there? No, but Roy went. We went to, this was a couple of years ago. We went to one of their summer sessions, as they call it, one of their Sunday school sessions. And the person there was giving the talk, why we are not Roman Catholics. And gave 3 important points. I got his PowerPoint, and I did a post-PowerPoint answer to that. But that's another story. But that's like right here in our own backyard. One of the largest evangelical churches in the country, I would say. I mean, his church is enormous. I'm sure he has well over 10,000 members. You've seen the size of it, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
The main auditorium is enormous.
I think he's the chairperson of the Master's College.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. You know, despite his fame, I'm sorry to say, sometimes he really sounds very annoying. and so to me, he's great on stage. That's my take.
Okay. Let's continue here. Revelation 17:9 says the woman rests on 7 hills. Revelation 17:9. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman is seated. Everyone knows that Rome is built on 7 hills. See, I'm just building a case. Building a case. Right? It's how can you argue with the Bible? Black and white. Revelation 17:18 says the woman is the great city which has dominion over the kings of the earth. Rome ruled the world at the time that Revelation was written. Finally, Jesus' words to those who are in the Roman Catholic Church are in Revelation 18:4. Come out of her, my people. How can you deny the Roman Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon? Leave this false religious system and come join my Bible-believing church. We have great music. Yeah? Marvelous Christmas service, right, Chris? I mean, if you've been to John MacArthur, they have a full symphony orchestra on a regular Sunday. I mean, it's incredible. It's huge. It's really quite, I mean, it's impressive.
The whole week of Christmas, honestly, they have the most famous orchestra.
Yes.
Christmas, since Cathedral, Crystal Cathedral. There's pale in comparison to the show he puts up around Christmas time. And so the whole community is granted free show.
Oh, yes, yes.
Christmas,
you're
orchestra.
right. Yes, yes. So it's like, how can you answer something like that? Well, besides what you wrote, here is where I would answer. These are common misinterpretations of the book of Revelation. They reveal anti-Catholic bias and thus represent eisegesis at its very best. What's eisegesis?
Eisegesis or exegesis?
Eisegesis. Well, what's exegesis, Rod?
Isn't that just a study of the history of like Jesus as? I'm speaking sense of it this way.
All right, that's fine. You don't have to. Well, let's put it this way: X. What does the prefix X mean? Out. Okay. To exegete something means to pull out of the text. It's a term of interpretation. You look at a text and you pull out its meaning. That's exegesis. Eisegesis, Eisegesis, means you put into the text. It's the complete opposite of exegesis. Here are the two words. Exegesis versus oops, I misspelled that already. Erase that part, Roy. Eisegesis. Exe means out, like an exit sign. Okay? Out. Eise means in. So this is to pull out of the text. The text, the meaning. This is to put in the text, the meaning. So you see the difference? You use the Bible to support your own preconceived notions. That's eisegesis. If you read the Bible for what it says and you pull its meaning out, that's exegesis. It is a fundamental skill in biblical interpretation. You have to let the Bible speak for itself. You can't go in with your own biases. Otherwise, you can make the Bible say anything. And this is a prime example of eisegesis happening. I'm anti-Catholic. I think the Catholic Church is evil or wrong or a cultic religious system. So when I read this particular text, I'm going to read into it my biases and use it as support to support my biases. You see that?
So how can we ever prove we're right?
Very good question. There are rules that govern our ways of biblically interpreting something. In Catholic thinking, in Catholic biblical interpretation, you never take a text out of its context. There are several rules that they go by, but the number one thing is you never take a text out of context. You don't just take this one little phrase and build a whole theology out of it without looking at all the stuff around it. That's the number one rule in biblical interpretation. You have to get the sense of the meaning of the entire book in order to get individual parts. All right? So looking at the context within the chapter, within the chapters around it, all the way to the other side of the book is a way of making sure that you're not taking something out of its meaning. Because again, you can make the Bible say anything you want. I can make it to support UFOs. I can make it to support marijuana use. I can make it say, I can show you reincarnation. Anything that you can make the Bible say anything you want, but that's eisegesis. You're reading into the text your own biases. You're supporting it with your biases. True biblical interpretation has to begin with understanding the context in which is meant, which is my first point. The big issue here is reading it in context. I would say the most immediate context to this whole description of the whore of Babylon is not just chapter 17 and 18, but you have to see it in terms of chapter 19. What's chapter 19? Chapter 19 is the bride of Christ. So, for example, the whore of Babylon is dressed with scarlet and purple, gold and jewels and pearls. Okay, very gaudy, very ostentatious, very luxurious, flamboyant. Whereas the bride in chapter 19, verse 8 says, it was granted her to be clothed with fine linen, bright and pure. Fine linen is the righteous deeds of the saints. What are the deeds of the whore? Fornications and impurity. You see the difference? So whatever the bride of Christ is, the whore of Babylon isn't. If the bride of Christ is the church, then whatever the whore is being described here is just the antithesis of that. Yes? Okay. The whore fornicates with the kings of the earth to advance herself and delights in the drinking of the blood of the innocent, the blood of the saints and martyrs. Right? In contrast, the bride consumes the blood of Christ. Yes? And is pure and virginal. See the difference? Yes?
But wouldn't then the Christian you're talking to take it as, well, the bride of Christ is describing me?
Very good point. Very good. Because in one sense, I'm still not answering you. I'm just supporting your ideas. You're right. The Roman Catholic Church is the whore. It's given itself up to the world. It's fornicating with the kings of the earth. It's got political power and all this, whereas our Bible-believing church is just faithful few. Right? But I'm just showing you that in interpreting who the whore is, you have to get this bigger picture. In the bigger vision, just within these 3 chapters, there's a contrast that is being made very clear. So if the bride is the church, who is the whore still? It's still not clear. Let's break this down. First objection, the cardinals wearing scarlet and purple. Scarlet, by the way, represents the blood of Christ. The reason why the cardinals wear red is to show that they are willing to be martyrs for the faith. Okay? Purple has a much deeper history. But in general, purple represents a penitent color. It's the penitent color of Lent. And the cardinals that wear purple, in general, are showing their penitence towards Christ. There's also a big history behind this that goes all the way to the 17th century as to why some cardinals wear red and some wear purple. And it has to do with back in the day, someone couldn't get enough dye, and so instead of dyeing them red, they turned purple, and they just stayed that way. It's that simple. I would suggest Googling it online to get a deeper meaning out of it. But the historical background is there. But in general, the reason why the cardinals wear red is that they're showing themselves to be the martyrs of Christ.